ตัวฮีมาซีอากิกุลหลายตาหินตุนีอาฮีอามันpresentation about the hin alim sem ho long chu mi pi ho ala no ma hin chi jong hi ka hin ke po hin na ma alim sem ho jong hi o ya hon alok se ni a cho pi thu thu la choi ding yong ka nei lo lui ho kan choi pi jeng hi ma hi mi pi wang hung nai lo na chi hi ma si presentation about na ding arom song a hin ke ho hi anung la nga hi thei thia ka to hin na se ha la nga na ma hoi lang nang pui to ding cho ching la la nga zong ni to ding hin
Are you?
Because
I need to do that. Read and write for go. Yeah. Yep. I'm coming with you. Okay. So.
Ke ho hi tu ni ka ni ho 24 cho na help tu ni
Figure out what I'm supposed to be doing next.
yeah 24 cho 24 October 24 la hi presentation Minneapolis a bol hi na ka sanu hi zi ka mata hi tham khat alung ling law thim ham na excited thim hin ma cha jang ane nom lo chi bol zo ting la ma khat hi ane ding hin ke pa ta khat hi ama a best friend na agol pa in jong tur sa ko na hong support a hi in agol pa anu le na agol pa hong a hi in hang ki thopia hi in
Here's a little bit about me. I have 3 siblings, and my brother left is also special needs. And my mom takes care of all 4 of us when my dad goes to work. My sister Naomi helps me. She also helps me with my homework sometimes. I am here to share my story with you and how I learned to use my voice my way. Now I'd like you to meet my backup singers.
Hi, thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. It is morning, isn't it? Still, barely. My name is Jana Greathouse. I am a speech pathologist by training, but I have been in the role of District Assistive Technology Coordinator at Jinx Public Schools for about 13 years. And I enjoy time with my family and backpacking, camping, reading, slow mornings, coffee, learning, and serving.
And I'm Kristen Fishback. I'm a teacher by trade. I've been teaching for a very long time in a lot of different settings. I've been in Jinx Public Schools for, I think this is my 18th year. But I'm only 3 years into my role as the district teaching and learning specialist, which is for special education, which is a fancy way to say coach. And we're just so excited to be here. This has already been the best experience. So it's just fantastic. Enjoy my family and friends. You don't have to. And I love new adventures, and I feel like Closing the Gap has just been a wonderful adventure for the 3 of us. And we're so thrilled you're here.
I was born in Myanmar, and in Myanmar I couldn't go to school because there was no place for people like me. I was lonely in Myanmar because I couldn't talk to anyone but my family. One day my mom and I left Myanmar to go live with my dad in Malaysia. When we got to Malaysia, we were poor but we were happy because we were a family again. My parents understand what I'm saying because they have been with me for a long time. I tell my parents what I want and what I need and don't want. My voice was inside me just waiting to get out. I wanted to use that voice to talk to other kids. One day we got a phone call from my uncle saying that we should come to Oklahoma. So on July 9th, 2012, we moved to Oklahoma. On the trip to Oklahoma, I was so excited to see the big city and finally go to school. I was also nervous about it too. The following year that I moved to Oklahoma, I started first grade at a new school called East Elementary in Jinx Public Schools. On my first day of school, I was nervous because I've never been to a school before in my entire life. At school, I was lonely because I couldn't talk to my new classmates or communicate with my teachers and friends. I also couldn't tell my teachers what I needed, and that made me frustrated because my teachers were just telling me what they thought that I needed. One day, my speech therapist asked if I wanted to try an iPad, and I nodded my head yes, so we tried it out. Then I wanted to try and use my feet. My speech therapist thought it was not a good idea, but I did it anyway. And I was right. I was very good with my feet. In 2nd grade, I made my very first friend, which I never thought I would make a friend, but he was different from other kids. He didn't judge the way I talked or looked, and he always listens to what I have to say. He even listens to me more than my teachers. By the way, we're still best friends till this day. In 3rd grade, I got my iPad, and in 4th grade, my power wheelchair. Everything was going great, but my teacher didn't listen to what I had to tell her, and she didn't even talk to me or give me the opportunity to show her how smart I am. I kept on using my voice in my own way, because nobody owns my voice but me. Then I started 5th grade and met this amazing teacher named Mrs. Fishback, and she helped me with a lot of things, such as speaking up for myself. That's why I'm glad I get to speak here today, so that people will know to listen to people like me and hear what we have to say and not talk for us. In 5th grade, a speech and language pathologist came and saw me, and she wanted me to use my lamp communication app in an easier way. But I said no, I'm going to use it my way because I know what is the best for me.
So I had the privilege of being Mercy's teacher in 5th grade, and when she came to me, she was just, as you guys can tell, she's just a light. There's just a light about her. She's funny. She's opinionated. All just so many great things. And she was coming to me just really ready to learn and ready to do and experience the world. So it was a really exciting time to get to be her teacher. She's taught us a lot. Mercy has really been teaching a lot of educational teams and groups along the way. We have a lot of transitions in our district. And when she came to me, she was coming from an elementary school of almost 1,500 kids. So as you can imagine, it's building to building, transition to transition. So she's been using her voice her way this whole time. So just wanted to explain a little bit. She's talking about how she uses lamp a little bit different way. When Mercy came to us, to our site in 5th grade, she had inherited this system, and that was a system that we were working within, but she was very much using it her own way. So I just want to show a quick little video of her answering a question, the way she chooses to do that, and then the way that it might be a more traditional path for a teacher. Oh no. We can always describe it. Well, maybe you can just get a sense from watching her do it. It's taking a few more hits, right? She's not using it in the traditional way where you're pairing to come up with the word. A lot of times when she's doing that, somebody you see her spelling out the stuff. So it's more hits versus the more traditional way that we teach users of LAMP to do it. And so, but you've always done it your own way. That's amazing. You know, all of those concerns about you're gonna lose your communication partner if that time that it takes. So I understand that. But honestly, I feel like that was a little limited in our thinking. So we could agree when we were meeting, and here's the other thing. We should have been meeting with Mercy. We were actually having staffings like educational teams do without the child. We're built-in carrier phrases. If we have pre-programmed stuff, that is not allowed the creativity that this child shows us, not child anymore, young woman on the daily was showing us. And she was using the device well, but it just wasn't very efficient. And she was just capitalizing on the flexibility that it provided. So that all of those things really worked, and truthfully, she out-stubborned everybody. I get it. And we all know that AAC is about communication. Absolutely, communication is in the title. It's in the name. But honestly, it was such a limited lens that we had when we were first working with Mercy. The whole team did. And Mercy really has taught me, this is her, how she taught her team, and she has, that she taught me that this vision really was just very narrow, very limiting. It's really so much more than that. And so we're just excited because this whole presentation is what happens when you honor student voice and choice, which is what we did. We didn't really have a choice to do this. But Mercy grew, and we grew just a lot with her. And for myself, I really learned that AAC really can be about building literacy skills. And honestly, Mercy really hadn't had a lot of opportunities for practice when you think about what a short amount of time that she had had her device and her wheelchair. Both had just opened up the world. But really, that's relatively a short amount of time before she came to me in 5th grade. So those opportunities for practice had been really limited, and Mercy was so focused on wanting to build those skills and build the ability to spell and read English. You had brilliantly built in these opportunities for practice that we really were not wanting to give her. We were wanting to say, that's gonna be during language arts time. And I even had that discussion with you, and I don't know if you remember it, and so like, listen, we can work on the spelling part during our ELA block. That's when we're gonna do that. And you were like, absolutely. We'll do it my way. And Mercy speaks 4 languages. Thedo, Burmese, English, and honestly, you guys know LAMP, it is a whole language unto itself, right? It's confusing. I'm not an SLP by trade, and I'm like, what is this? This is a whole other language, and it really is. And I think Mercy had decided that the language system that she was really wanting to work on was English. And that meant spelling the words out. And that meant sometimes not hitting the button that said yes, but spelling it out. And you would spell it out, and you would listen to it, and if it didn't sound right, you would respell it. So she was just like driven to learn English everywhere all the time. And it was a little bit slower process. Yep. So really, she was using LAMP as her tool to learn to read. It really was because that feedback. AAC is really about building relationships. Of course, we understand that. But the kind of relationships that Mercy built, because they required people to really slow down and listen to her and give her the time to spell out the words, were just so qualitatively different. And I always felt like Mercy, like you were like the sorting hat at Hogwarts. Teachers and friends. Because there were some kids that really weren't gonna take the time and make the time. Same for teachers, sadly. But I watched her kind of sort out people that were really worth her time, were the ones that were willing to listen. And those relationships were incredibly deep. And just, from my perspective, pretty amazing to watch. And it made me reevaluate how quickly we go through the world. Like our relationships can be pretty fast and maybe sometimes too fast. I think the other thing that I learned is that AAC really can be about the dividends of those intentional, deep conversations and relationships that she was building. It did require time and effort. The listener has to be willing to be there. And I really think there's something really safe, like it's a sacred space that happens when you're sitting there and you're waiting for somebody to answer. You're just like anticipating their answer, but you're just listening in the moment. And I can't, qualitatively is very different from what I saw. Just really deep relationships are built. And I'm not gonna cry because her best buddy is here. He flew in last night and surprised her. Like this, right? It's amazing. But this is what happens, these deep relationships. And we're gonna show a very embarrassing video in Red John's really But I also saw that she was not just building relationships with lots of kids in our building. We had some kids that really struggle with trust issues, a lot of trauma. And these were kids that were like running away from campus. They started running to my room. They started running to Mercy because she had built this relationship of trust that I think was at the party. Like, you know, you have a really deep relationship when somebody will fly from Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Minneapolis to party with you in the Gap. He's excited. He must have moved later. This is what it's about.
Yay!
Nothing. 2. Does. Do. W-I-T-A with I-T. I have nothing to do with it.
I showed her this morning, she's like, you know, basically plausible deniability. Tell John that this was you. But honestly, that speaks so deeply to the kind of relationships that she was building, and it was really based on that time. I think we had some really, like, you have honest conversations when you're taking that time, and the trust that you build is just amazing. Also, it can be about self-advocacy and empowerment. I think we all know that, but getting to see that in action and honoring the way that she was choosing to use her voice just empowered her. So I saw her just explode as an advocate for herself, and actually it broadened out to other students who may be AAC users or access the world in a different way. And it's just an amazing thing to see. And it all became, when we let go of that battle, like, this is how I want you to use it, and these great things start happening. And I think for me it was really hard. Teachers are always spinning 1,000 plates. And this idea that social stories would include things, it is hard for adults to wait. You know, I mean, the social story ended up being for all of us. And setting visual timers and doing some of those things, pushing the library, it's time for us to start, now's your time to answer. But it took us, it was not easy at first, but it actually, the kids got there. And the great thing is the research tells us when we give students wait time, instruction improves. Even just 5 seconds of wait time. I feel like expanding mine to the minute and 15 actually had even bigger dividends. The length and the quality of student responses improve. When you give kids more time to reflect, so it's, you know how like you have little Johnny who answers first, everybody else stops thinking. They don't have to think anymore, not whoever, little whoever. They're done. But if we give the wait time, the kids are formulating their answers, so their quality is going to be better when they give it. Those students, of course, who are slower to respond, now all of my kids were taking that chance. And I was really realizing some kids that I thought only needed 15 seconds of wait time probably needed quite a bit more. And students also start giving more supportive evidence. Again, I think is that time to think about it. Their answer is going to be better. Increases higher order responses. The teachers start using higher order questioning. Like, we're even more thoughtful about the things that we're going to ask our students. And the teachers show greater flexibility in evaluating student responses when they're given. I think we just honor them more. Abilities, and I also had kids with some pretty significant behavior problems, all in the same room. And Mercy like, yeah, I remember this one. But it created class community. We just started listening to everybody better and more deeply and giving that time. We saw a huge, I think when the students saw Mercy being this really big self-advocate, we started to see it across all of the kids. Improved social skills. Wait time is hard and it's a life skill, but we got to practice it on the daily. And there's increased emotional regulation skills, learning to wait. And then just so much celebration of individual expression. And this group of kiddos is still one of my favorite groups of kids, and I think it's because we built this super strong community that started with slowing down. So I'm getting to the Mercy where I pass it over. So my biggest takeaways from working with you and learning from you is that really she was prioritizing her learning, her connections, and showing up as her authentic self over the more efficient way we wanted her to communicate. And thank goodness she did. We wouldn't have won that battle anyway, but we got to see this in action, and that it was amazing. You're welcome. So I think when we're the specialist, when we start prioritizing that efficiency, sometimes we're really losing some of those other have to really take care when we're the ones, when those of us that can communicate with a little more ease, when we're putting all the emphasis on the efficiency part, that's my bias. Not really hers, right? So who decides that? And you is exactly right. Exactly right. When we, finally got to the place where we were really honoring your voice and the way that you did that in 5th and 6th grade, I'd like to believe that had a little piece in who she is now as a senior. Because then Mercy really, well, she'll tell you more. She just became such an advocate in those 2 years. And I think, we didn't really have a choice in the AAC system that we got. I think LAMP has a lot of good features. We inherited it. But within that system, you used it your way, and she showed up every day in my classroom as her own self, and she is still doing that today. Right now, her team is looking at, she's gonna graduate, and this is a time to really look at, okay, what's AT gonna look like in the future, insurance, all that good stuff. I don't know what Mercy will choose. I don't know if you'll continue with LAMP or there'll be something else, but 100% do know you will keep using whatever it is in your way, and you're gonna keep teaching others with your voice. That's my goal. I gotta pass it on. I have to follow that. Is this on? I always have to so wouldn't it be great if we all had a Kirsten Fishback and a Mercy Hopkip in our districts to teach us all of the things? So one of the things that we can always anticipate in any classroom at the beginning of the school year is diversity. We're just going to have a wide range of interests and abilities and preferences and strengths. In the 2022-2023 school year, we had 7.5 million children being served under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. 1 in 4 children in 2025 will be English language learners. And that doesn't even include all are getting their needs met, they're engaged with each other, they're engaged with the content, they can make choices about how they want to deep dive into the content, and they have the access and ability to do that. And how do we get there? Well, I think we can all take a lesson from Mrs. Fishback, because she creates an amazing community environment in her classroom where her students can make those kinds of choices. And of course, she's not gonna just let it go willy-nilly. Sometimes. But even providing the choices that she is okay with in that moment for students to access the activities and the content in the classroom. So when we look at assistive technology and universal design for learning and inclusivity, they all kind of weave in together. Like there's a lot of overlap, and so it's hard to talk about some people in here who have not ever heard of universal design for learning. I am still learning a lot about it myself, but it is essentially a proactive way to design classroom instruction to better meet the needs of all of your students. And it's scientifically based. This is based on brain research. And there are 3 different areas that are targeted: engagement, representation, and action and expression. And there are all of these amazing guidelines on the CAST website, which is linked in the resources at the end of the presentation if you all would like to check those out. And just a little bit of history related to universal design. It was actually, it began as an architectural idea to create environments where those wheelchair users could more easily access buildings. And you wanted to use a pencil or a marker. Do you want to sit at the table or on the floor? Do you want to use text-to-speech, or do you prefer to read it silently? So all of those things are options that can be provided to students so that they can navigate their own learning and figure out what works best for them. And it might differ too from one subject to another, or from morning to afternoon. So just being able to provide those kinds of options to students all along the way can help them just personalize their learning. That was rooted in that work.
We also created a technology plan, which we're getting ready to revise because they did have a new national educational technology plan come out last year, or earlier this year, I think. And so we are doing a book study on the new plan so that we can update our technology plan to align better with the national ed tech plan. Even if they don't have the language, that they can know what to do on the first day of school and where to go. If you yourself, I so recommend that, like, if you are working towards this in your district or would like to, of course, bite-sized chunks, it can seem really, really overwhelming. We're going on our 5th year of work in this, with what we learned from site, so it takes time. But if you would like to get started, on their website, they have a little get started button that will guide you to where, how to get started. Imagine that. It's titled What It Does. And we're doing all of this to help kind of replicate the kind of community that Mrs. Fishback had created in her classroom, so that all of our students feel safe and like that their voices are heard.
I also learned how to be a self-advocate by being more involved in my IEP meetings and telling them that I don't want to be in a classroom with teachers who don't see me as smart and capable as any other normal students. In 6th grade, I spoke to my school's foundation on behalf of students with disabilities who should have the opportunity to attend my district's environmental camp for 6th grade students. My educational team listened to me and we worked together to make sure that I could do what every 6th grade student who went to camp did. I canoed, hunted for crawdads and critters in the water, danced, laughed, and rode the screamer. I loved the screamer because I felt like I was flying. I used my voice to tell the foundation that kids who might look like me, but have not figured out how to use their voice might want to go to camp too.
And this is the video of the screamer. I will add the audio.
Merci, Loya Kiloina.
And I will say, Mercy used her voice to fight to be able to be on this. This was, pulling this off with the OT, the PT, all of the people involved, convincing the camp that we'll sign whatever, liability form you want. Right. And this experience.
In 6th grade, I met this amazing art teacher named Miss Love, and she helped me find my passion for art. Since then, my paintings are hanging in my school district, along with my ideas and descriptions of my art. My voice and my ideas hang in a lot of places now. I communicated my ideas about my art in my way.
And I'm gonna step in here, so she, not only in our district now, one of her paintings hangs in the Capitol in Oklahoma. And Mercy used her voice, like she really was finding her groove in 6th grade. And when the district said, we'd like this, we'd like to commission a piece of art to hang in our building, she said, sure, but here's the deal. I want a field trip with my 2 best friends. And we're gonna go to Red Robin and you're gonna pay for it. You know what? Her demands were met. That's why that now hangs in our
When I was a junior in high school, I spoke at a conference for technology and education where I talked about how technology helps students like me with our schoolwork. I was also a guest speaker at Jenks East Intermediate, my old school, where I talked about how I got through the hard times in my life and didn't listen to what others say about me. There were so many students in the audience. They listened patiently as I communicated my way at my speed, and the teacher said they've never seen the 6th graders be so good. Earlier this month, I was a keynote speaker at the Arc of Oklahoma, an advocacy group dedicated to improving the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Sorry.
Now I'm speaking to you guys. Someone take a picture. I am collecting lots of pictures of lots of places where I'm getting to use my voice to share my story my way. Teachers, speech-language pathologists, assistive technology specialists, you do you. I'll do me. Please don't try and convince me to try your faster way. I do a faster way when I want to. Your way is not my way and just makes me feel like you don't value me or my choices. Don't assume I don't understand how you want me to use my device. I do. I know me better than you do. I am worth knowing and worth your honoring my communication choices. If you take the time to listen to me, you find out I'm a lot more than a girl in a wheelchair. That's why I'm glad I get to speak here today, so the people will know to listen to people like me and hear what we have to say, and not talking for us or telling us how to talk. Thank you for listening to my speech. And thank you to my team and family for being there for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we'll give you wait time. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm an AECOT, my name is Danielle, and I have students that I think would like to use their feet, but I live in northern Canada. So we always worry about their feet getting cold and transfers outside and things, and then the mounting I was gonna come up and look afterwards, because that's another challenge. But I wondered, like, what would you say if a student wanted to use their feet, and I was like, but it's winter, it's cold here.
U S E use sock socks B U T but I C U T cut P O U R hour T out T G semicolon H E G T O E to P A R T I use socks, but I cut out the toe part.
I know, right? You know what happens when we ask students? It's like,
Và xe đi để đọc lại đó, thu đọc lại đó. Ở đâu luôn nó mình đọc thay lại đó đây này.
I want to go to T C C T C C A B N D and study computers and art. I want to go to TCC and study computers and art.
ก็เลยจินอะไรก็ใส่ ตัว he mercy presentation upon na he loga ka hin ko hi in ama ho in sharing about na te ho hi English nga na aseo hin asim thei thein ni na ngai na sim pi win nang ni na ngai pi win lang na ken yong pau ka le thei pon ken yong pau ka le thei pon chi closing the care ve som li le ve ni hin na annual conference ahi kazao pathelung senang kazao theo in marsi block 3 adinga na boy upload ka hin bol kit handing hin kay ni nu cha in pathelung senin marsi conference dam selling ka chai theo win English ngan ho hi ai the thia ama ho in ahim sharing abol na te ho na thuro ane na te ho na marsi thuro ane na te ho hi pau kan le lo te hitan hitara rai ta edit ka hin bon hon ding hitan so aba the ni na bat pi win nang ni na shell pi win nang marsi ni na thapi zomjing bang win tun jong ni thapi pi ki no bo ya hi ka hin se hi ko la pai te ho ka ki pa wi na bon chao chunga nei ngai lu za lo win pathe nin pathe na bo jing ta hen.
Thank you for watching my video and make sure to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of my videos.